Now to a dire warning about climate change.
A dire warning.
A dire warning.
A dire warning.
Dire new warning.
Dire warning.
Another dire warning. The situation is dire.
A dire warning.
Dire consequences.
A dire warning.
It sounds dire. What prompted this warning?
We have a global emergency.
It's here, it's man-made, and there are going to be dire results.
The government issued its most dramatic report yet about climate change today, and it came with a dire warning.
A stark warning.
A warning to humanity.
An existential threat to human civilization on this planet.
Experts say that we have until 2030 to avoid catastrophe.
And we, the scientists also tell us, have 12 years in which to answer that question. 12 years within which to act.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
We have 12 years to turn this around.
By the year 2030, that's just 12 years from now.
The future is closer than we think and is not good.
There will be irreversible damage to the planet.
Time is running out to prevent global warming from reaching a catastrophic milestone.
Sea levels rising.
Extreme drought.
Severe storms.
Widespread fires and extreme flooding.
Dangerous heat waves. Rising sea levels
and forcing millions from their homes.
Crop failure and mass population movements.
As well as food shortages.
Millions around the world face future disaster.
Pretty serious.
People are dying.
President Trump has frequently doubted its existence and has called it a hoax.
I don't believe it.
The world is going to end in 12 years.
From the creators of the Russian collusion conspiracy and the Jussie Smollett hate crime, this summer, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Like, this is...
Well, not issuing sad, self-effacing apologies for their own skin color. Top Democrats are warning that if we don't give them full control of the U.S. economy right now, the world will literally be destroyed.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is... Your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it? And, like, this is the war. This is our World War II.
This is our final chance. The scientists are absolutely unanimous on this, that we have no more than 12 years to take incredibly bold action on this crisis.
That's just pathetic. But this show cares about science, and so we want to assess the claim critically and scientifically. Do we really have 12 years left? That's what they're saying. Is it true? Daniel Turner is Executive Director at Power the Future and joins us tonight. Mr. Turner, thanks very much for coming on. So just throw that right to you. Do we have 12 years left? Is there science that shows that?
Actually, the Associated Press today debunked that, which was pretty fascinating for someone who studies energy and environmental issues, to see the Associated Press walk that back and say, we have never said there are 12 years left to fix climate change. But Beto has said it, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said it, and the scientists who wrote this UN report have said, that is a made-up statistic that you all have extrapolated. It's interesting that they finally issued the report now.
Hold on, slow down. That's the party of science.
Yes.
We know that. They had a march for science after Trump got elected. You remember that?
Yes.
Because they believe in science and we don't. And we believe, obviously, in snake handling.
Kids marched out of class on Friday for science.
For science. But this doesn't sound like science.
No, the 12 years number is what the scientists said based upon the Paris Climate Accords. This is where we would like to get by 2030. This happened in 2018. So by 2030, we want to get here. Somehow that number became, if we don't do it in 12 years, the end of the world is imminent. And Beto has said that. Like I said, numerous Democrats have run on that issue. When Beto announced the other day, that clip that you just showed, he said that there was unanimous consensus among scientists that we had 12 years left to fix this. And so it is nonsense that they've repeated this over and over again, and it never gets, as you said in your first segment, it never gets corrected and no one apologizes.
So these are basically people you're saying who believe that Bill Nye is actually a science guy and not just a buffoon created by television.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what I'd love to ask these folks, I remember a report in 1989, I was a freshman in high school when it came out, that said we had 10 years left. By the year 2000, we had to fix climate change. What did they get wrong then? The same UN panel, by the way, issued both reports. What did they get wrong then that they are so certain that they have now that we have to fix climate change?
It sounds like a lot of what they say is just an effort to immediately take the moral high ground and holding the moral high ground, do whatever they want to the country.
Yeah, when you do things under the guise of protecting Mother Earth or for the planet or for the children, which is what a lot of them say. Remember those kids who stormed Dianne Feinstein's office a little while ago? When you do things for the planet, you are given a really wide berth. And so it is taking over the healthcare industry. It's taking over basically all employment. It's putting out of work millions of people who work in the energy industry. Funny that Beto wasn't talking about these things when he was running against Ted Cruz a couple months ago.
It's just fun. I mean, I think of myself as a pretty ardent conservationist, as someone who loves the outdoors and spends a lot of time there. If they care so much about the environment, why are their cities filthy? The cities that they run, San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York, they're cesspools.
And why don't, in their personal lives, they dictate what they want government to mandate? Bernie Sanders prefers to fly on private jets. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez prefers to take the shuttle on American Airlines to Amtrak. Now, Penn Station, I don't blame her. I would much rather take the shuttle, the airline as well.
But doesn't that tell you, you don't want to go to Penn Station because it's disgusting. You don't want to walk down the street in the Mission District in San Francisco because there's human waste and hypodermic needles. How should I take someone seriously as an environmentalist if they don't pick up the trash in front of their own building?
They're unable to run their cities now, but somehow if they are given more power to run all of government, to employ basically the entire nation, including those unwilling to work, as they mentioned, somehow they'll be able to fix things. They can't run Amtrak well now. What makes us think that they will build a national automotive grid or train railroads?
I feel like a lot of conservatives, Republicans certainly, are on the defensive as soon as these people start talking and they say, climate is a problem. Instead of just saying you have no idea what you're talking about, there's no reference in science to what you're saying. You're a demagogue and a liar. Why does nobody say that?
I wish they would just point out what actually fossil fuels does for our country, what it does for our economy, the quality of life that we have. The kids who were marching just on Saturday were all with smartphones. There was a girl who had a plastic Fiji water bottle. Does she not know that? And saying, stop fossil fuels. Does she not know where fossil fuels come from and what they do?
what plastic is made of? Thank you very much for that perspective. I appreciate it. Democrats are united on one question. Climate change is bad, very bad. As bad as World War II. In fact, existentially bad. We will all die from it.
This singular crisis that we face, a crisis that could, at its worst, lead to extinction.
If we don't have the bravery to take it on as the most important challenge of our lifetime, then we don't care about those children.
A life and death issue.
We are running out of runway to be able to fix this problem.
People are going to die. Habitat will be destroyed. Seas will rise. Insects will spread.
We're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. Like, this is the war. This is our World War II.
So bad, they're running out of adjectives. So what's to blame for this world-ending cataclysm? Well, a new research paper has the answer. It is, you're not going to be surprised, toxic masculinity. That's causing global warming. The paper argues that being environmentally conscious is a stereotypically feminine trait, so men, in response, assert their masculinity by deliberately destroying the environment and hogging the remote. They drive gas guzzlers, use plastic bags, they light things on fire. It's what men do. If we want to save the environment, we have to suppress men. It's like World War II, sort of. Anyway, author and columnist Mark Steyn has thought a lot about this question. In fact, he may be adding to the carbon footprint just by his masculinity. He joins us tonight. So, Mark, what do you make? Is this the science that you grew up with?
Well, I confess I was at first skeptical. If I understand this thesis, my insecurities about my masculinity are causing rising sea levels in the Maldives. And at first I didn't really buy that. But as I think about it, I think, in fact, it's actually one of the least risible climate science theses of recent years. So I'm kind of on board with where they're going on this.
But, I mean, how did we wind up with a country in which feminists do science? I mean, isn't that, we're sort of bound to get a study like this, right?
Yeah, I think in fact it's very difficult to tell with social science, as with climate science, whether or not it's an ingenious parody. It's almost impossible to tell, in fact. But I think this goes back to, I think the important point here is toxic masculinity. They're saying that they did a survey here, this is the kind of hardcore science behind it, in which they gave someone a Walmart gift card, and it was pink and had lots of flowery patterns on it. So it looked a bit girly, looked a bit sissy, looked a bit milquetoast, panty waist. So the guy given this gift card went out and bought a lot of very macho, masculine things that melt the polar ice caps. Whereas if you give him something, if you give him, he's so impressionable, this toxically masculine male, that if you give him a masculine type card, he just thinks, oh, that's really nice. And he goes out and he buys a Sierra Club tote bag and saves the planet. This is the kind of social science that the higher education institutions of America are spending a fortune investigating.
I thought climate science was all about ice core samples, but it's about Walmart gift cards.
No, that's ridiculous, because basically climate science is a state of mind. So that if you want to go out, you can go and take tree ring samples in the middle of nowhere if you want, but that's for losers. The big bucks are doing a survey where, in fact, you decide that what's heating up the planet is men. A couple of weeks ago on this show, Tucker, you had a report that they were introducing vegetarian days in the New York City schools because red meat has toxically masculine overtones, and basically, if you look at half the stories you cover every night, toxic masculinity is the sort of underlying subtext of it. So basically, when Jerry Brown says we all have to be worried because insects will spread, I mean, these guys are literally predicting a plague of locusts now, and the only good thing about the plague of locusts is that they'll kill all the men. If Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's flatulent Holsteins don't get us first. But between the plague of locusts and the plague of flatulent Holsteins, men, toxically masculine men, will be over, and then the planet will be saved.
This is just, I wish there was a Latin term for government by unhappy, crazy people, because that's what we're witnessing now. Mark Stein, it is so, as long as we're having a revolution, I'm glad you're here to chronicle it with us. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Tucker. Good to be with you.